Welcome to something blah 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 caca poo poo. 10 points for whoever gets that reference. I'm gonna keep this in too. See if anyone gets that reference.
Oh yeah, Bruce Almighty.
God damn it, Mike.
I can't stop.
Another reference. You can't stop me. Somebody stop him. Welcome to Something to Marvel About, a podcast where we discuss and dissect the week's MCU releases. My name's English Dave, and my co-host is Rocket Mike. What's up, Mike?
Hey, what's that?
We're here today to talk about episode 6 of WandaVision, all new Halloween spooktacular. The episode opens with, now we understand that each episode is going to give us a different sitcom era, which comes along with an era-appropriate style theme song. And this week's theme song is very recognizable. Mike, I'm going to hand it off to you. What were the inspirations behind this week's episode?
This one I didn't even have to look up because I lived through it. It was Malcolm in the Middle. I think everyone could have guessed that at least halfway through because it also spilled off into the episode with a few of the breaking of the fourth wall with one of the kids speaking to the camera.
Both of them actually at one point.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and both of them doing it.
They incorporated the flashback scenes that were started getting widely popular as more TV shows went on, and then finally it was just the overall filming of the episode. Instead that they cut from the wide shot. It was kind of fun to see like how filmmaking had progressed throughout each generation. But the 90s was the first one to take it up close, and they do multiple angles, and it can go from close up to wide to following. It didn't seem so structured. It seemed much more modern. You could almost say that some still follow this same formula.
No, and even with the 90s, it was actually touching into my first question of the episode, but we'll jump there right now. I think for us specifically in the Nerdy Bunch, this is the first time in the show's eras that we can fully relate to, right? Because we understood the previous eras, we got it, but this was our time. This is the stuff that we witnessed firsthand on some level. We remember Malcolm in the Middle. The intro is exactly the same, like you said. We didn't have to think about it. Instantly, boom, I figured it out. Because the other previous episodes, we had to which one is this? Is it Family Ties? And we know there's names, but it's not as instant to us.
Right.
And so with this one, I'm like you, I connected with it a lot quicker. And in fact, it felt more sitcom-y as an episode, especially that beginning part of it. It felt genuine to me. Like I would watch that show,
And for one, you also didn't have the laugh track on there anymore.
True. And even things like I felt the kids acting was so much better this time around.
Yeah. It
was a complete 180. I was like, oh my God, I could actually see them in a full-on show. I could watch this and not be bothered by this. But let's go into the episode itself. Like we said, it starts off with Billy in the camcorder taking us on a tour of the house of him and his brother. We get information about, mom being stressed out. Mom and dad aren't quite talking right now because they're not on the same wavelength. We find out which is the cooler brother, which isn't. And he's like, hey, if you're the cooler brother, what am I? And we get the flashback, him dancing to Dance Dance Revolution. Yeah, and their charming man-child of an uncle, played by Pietro. I like the sequence where they think he's a vampire because he only sleeps all day.
Yeah.
They're all getting ready for Halloween, as the title lets us know. And fun fact, if you guys don't realize, they're all wearing, on some level, comic accurate costumes. If you know the comics, all their costumes they're wearing, including the kids, are comic accurate to their comics counterparts. Though Wanda tries to play it off when she says she's wearing the dress of a traditional Sokovian fortune teller, and Vision's wearing a Mexican because she's into Mexican wrestling. I like when she speaks Spanish and he's like, chili con carne.
Yeah. I'm like, your program could have you speak any language there is, but okay, that's what we're going to go with.
I like that. This brings Pietro to mentioning a childhood, a moment where they went trick-or-treating together in Sokovia, and we get that little flashback, like you mentioned, something that started in the 90s and in the early 2000s in terms of TV shows. And we see when the old lady gives them a dead fish for Halloween. And if you notice, Pietro's wearing a costume that has an eye patch. People speculate he's supposed to be Nick Fury. I don't know how that would work outside of a meta context, because they would be very young, and how would they know Nick Fury? But I'll
But
take
yeah,
it. Whatever. It's fun. You know. Wanda though wonders why she doesn't remember the events playing out that way, and Pietro says it's because she probably suppressed the trauma. Is that a hint at some other greater narrative that we're talking about here? Pretty sure that wasn't by mistake. Vision tells Wanda that he can't go trick or treating with them because he's got to do neighborhood watch duties, and I like when she says, "Oh, but that's not the plan," kind of hinting that,
yeah, I knew that was going to be a lie right from the beginning. It's like, but she confirmed it right after the initial thought. It was like, but that's it. Basically, like she knew, like this. That's not how I wrote the script. This is not how the direction. But since they're alive, it's kind of like, well, we got to run with it.
Okay,
Can't
let's
start
go.
over.
Exactly, and it seems genuine from her point of view. Okay, fine. He can't get in trouble doing that, I guess. Though Pietro then volunteers, he's like, "I'm their uncle. I don't mind. I'll take him trick or treating with them." And he zooms away because she's like, "You don't have a costume." So he zooms away, zooms back with comic accurate costume. If you guys know the comics as well, Pietro, even with the hair, I love it. Comic accurate hair and uniform, and also with Tommy matching as well. Outside the Hex, Director Hayward and Monica are arguing about what to do, because remember, this plays off just after he tried to do a drone strike on Wanda, and she's like, "Nah, take your shit back."
Yeah.
So they're arguing over that, and he's like, "We should take her out," and she's like, "Yeah, we tried, nothing happened. Pretty sure like bad things could happen if we try again." Which kind of makes sense. She's not picking sides here. She's just saying what she sees.
Speaking common sense
Right.
from what you just saw.
Like what? But though he counters that that people like her. I like when she says people like you, which for me kind of on an aside makes me think: is there a division happening in the MCU of people who were blipped and people who remained? Because he's like, people like you still have the luxury of optimism. You didn't know what the world has been like the last 5 years, and then she's like, well, you're reacting out of fear. So it makes me think, this guy is probably reacting out of fear. Those last 5 years, half the world disappeared. He even mentions in the couple of episodes earlier how Sword had to kind of pivot in terms of what they do. So it's
Yeah,
interesting.
because we don't know. We might as well have been
Blipped. Yeah.
blipped. Yeah, because we haven't seen what the MCU was like for those 5 years. We've seen probably like a few days in Endgame.
And even then,
However, yeah, but even then, I could argue that he's also just trying to make a case in his defense against her in order to just try to gain the upper hand here. Because I feel like that's the only card he had to play, and that like he just got beat in the last episode by Wanda. So now, she's actually bringing up a good case. Like, yeah, you can't strike violence with her. You're not going to win. When it comes to like an actual war, we have to go in. We have to talk. We got to find other means to do this. This is all he knows. He's he's a war man. So I feel like that's the only thing he knows. That's the only thing he can pull. That's the only thing he can play. So I don't know. Part of me feels like he's just going to say it, because that's the only defense. But at the same time, you're right. We don't know. We weren't there. I'm sure there's going to be more information about what happened during that 5 years later on in future projects. But for now, it's like I feel conflicted.
Right. Though that wasn't the only thing he pulled. He pulls a real low blow. Good thing you went around when your mom died of cancer. I was like, oof, damn. It's like you're just being a dick because you don't have the stomach for this job, and letting her know that her affection for superheroes, like, I know you friends with Captain Marvel, and your affection for superheroes is blinding you. Clearly, again, this is someone who you can tell he doesn't like superheroes. He kind of probably blames them. Again, maybe he's right. He blames them, probably blames them for a lot of stuff. He kicks her, Jimmy, and Darcy off the case as they're being escorted. Jimmy and Monica take out the guards and steal some sword punchers and get back to the operating area. One thing I like about this moment is that a lot of times when you have comedic characters like Jimmy who are also law enforcement, they're always portrayed as punks when it comes to actually shit getting down. But I like that Jimmy can fight. I was like, okay, Jimmy, you're not just a funny guy. You can hold your own as well when it comes to kicking ass. But I also had a question. We started talking about Hayward. The series so far is kind of maybe forcing us that he's a bad guy. But I think like what you touched on is true. I don't think he's a bad guy. I just think he's a bad guy. He's using fear. He's using whatever he can to do. Like, I don't think he's the one orchestrating all of this. He's just reactionary.
He's a guy that we're going to disagree with. I don't
Yes.
think he is the antagonist
No.
for this. I think he's just he's honestly a beefed up pawn in a way of a bigger picture here.
Because some people think he may be like the devil in disguise, Mephisto, or some other magical character.
Man, I can make all these assumptions, and MCU will just turn around and be like, yeah, you didn't see that coming. Yeah, they could do that too.
The only reason I don't think he's some kind of super powered person on that level is because whoever's doing all this would know the extent of Wanda's abilities and wouldn't send guns and a drone, because you'd know that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
You know, like you'd absolutely know that wouldn't work on her. Yeah, unless there's some ulterior motive to doing that. But I do think he has his motives. You know, we'll get to it later, but when we find out that he's tracking Vision, he has a secret plan. I think maybe they were doing plans on Vision or using his body to create weapons. And when we see that footage of Wanda stealing Vision, it could be Wanda taking him back. He may not be part of creating this whole thing, but kind of like in Winter Soldier when Cap found out that Fury was working with Hydra tech, I think he's trying to reverse engineer Vision's tech to try and create some kind of weaponry or something like that. Again, we found out when S.W.O.R.D. is introduced a couple of episodes ago that S.W.O.R.D. has pivoted from space stuff and now is dealing with like weapons and things like that. So maybe that could be part of it. Again, these are just theories. However, back in town, Wanda and Pietro talk while the boys are getting candy. And tell me if I'm reading into this too much, but Pietro literally says, "Unleash hell on them, you demon spawn."
I was thinking that too. And I think that could be... I'm taking everything... This episode has taught me to not look too deep. We have been investigating this inside and out, looking at every little Easter egg and trying to decipher it. And I feel like there are certain things in here that are planted on purpose in order to throw us.
100%.
And I think that could be a line that was very kind of like in our face. And they even kind of like stopped.
Right.
I really think there was just kind of like a distraction. It was just kind of like, hey, look over here. You know, it's like, remember that? Remember, you know, these theories? So I'm going to be skeptical about that. Yeah.
Or maybe that's what they want us to think. So it's a double bluff, right?
Like a double agent here and giving me misinformation.
Misinformation, but it's the right information.
It's the real
to look like
information.
Wanda asks Pietro a question, and he realizes, "Are you trying to test me?" And then they acknowledge that they do look different. He does look different, which kind of makes me kind of go back to the theory we spoke about last week that this isn't X-Men's Pietro, but rather Ultron Pietro, who happens to now look like X-Men's Pietro.
Yeah.
Or something that looks like him, because he says, I don't know why I look different. So that acknowledgement, not saying, oh, this is what I've always looked like. What are you talking about? So that's something that's it's interesting to me. But before she can get an answer, the kids arrive and come along and they want to help their kick-ass uncle with candy acquisition. Did you catch that reference? So,
you know what? I missed that one.
Oh, so fun fact. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who plays Quicksilver in Ultron, also played Kick-Ass in the Kick-Ass movie.
Right.
However, Evan Peters, who played the other version of Pietro, was also in Kick-Ass as his best friend.
Whoa.
And at first, I thought that was just like, coincidence, Kick-Ass. But then Wanda also says it, Kick-Ass. Definitely that was on purpose.
Yeah, okay, now that makes sense. Because I was wondering why she said Kick-Ass for a second,
exactly.
And I haven't watched that movie in so long. I think I definitely would have caught that had I recently seen it,
I literally watched it 2 weeks ago because a week ago, because when Pietro showed up, I was like, oh shit, he was in Kick-Ass too. And then my wife was like, I've never seen that movie. And I was like, well you know what's going to happen now. So I watched it recently, and still a great movie. Love it. Yeah. Second one, first one.
Yeah. Second one too. It's just like, nah.
Yeah, right. Wanda bumps into Herb, who's dressed as Frankenstein's monster. A lot of people are trying to read into that, what that means. I don't think it means too much, but hey,
it was like really actually, everyone else's costumes seem pretty basic,
Right?
Or at least it's kind of like store-bought almost. Like even Wanda's, it's kind of like, that looks like you could have pulled that off the rack. But Herb, this was like, that's some good detail.
Right?
That must have taken a long time, And he's just acting like it's nothing. He's no character change. It's kind of like, hey, it's going. Making sure everything's
he tells Wanda that actually Vision isn't on duty tonight. So she's surprised and shocked. And again, there's a moment where he's like, "You want something change?" It seemed as if like he's talking to Wanda, not this Wanda. You know, when he asks that question, it's like he broke character for a moment, kind of like Agnes last week. You know, that was an interesting moment. Then we cut to Vision, who he sees walking away from the center of Westview. And the further away he gets, we start seeing movement in the background get slower and slower till he notices people glitching. That was an eerie visual. That was actually very creepy.
I was gonna say, I'm like, either that's a glitch or it's like, okay, here are the extras that they put towards the outside that just do enough movement as if a camera were just kind of like rolling by. You know, because that's all you would see. It's just like someone putting down a jack-o'-lantern, I think, and then someone like putting up a decoration. That just those like 2 or 3 seconds is all you would see if you were just doing like cutscenes, you know, or just like a, you know, literally just background for just a moment. And it's like, all right, yeah, just keep repeating that. I was just watching The Truman Show after watching WandaVision because it had reminded me of that. And it's like people just go in a loop because they think that you're only going to see them for those few seconds. And then what does it matter? Like, what does it matter what they do after or before? Same thing. It's just kind of like a little bit of like a Truman Show, but everyone's aware of it. And, you know, it's like, who's left? That's not. It's Vision. Vision's figuring it out. He is Truman in this.
And to get that creepy moment where the woman, the tear comes down her eye. So on a level, you're like, they are aware on some level. It's like, holy shit.
Everyone's being against their will. Everyone's paid on the Truman Show. Right. That's like actors, but this is
and again, there's one thing for you to be controlled against your will and not be conscious of it. Right. And there's another thing to be very conscious of it. You know, like you didn't black out. You're very much awake. You just a passenger in your own body. Yeah, right. That's scary. We cut to commercial time, which we get one of the most intriguing commercials that we've got so far in the series. We see a kid on the desert who gets a visit from a shades wearing shark dude, very, very of its time, offering him magic, yo magic, which it was like the Go-Gurts.
Go-Gurts, yeah.
Exactly. Go-Gurt. And the kid for some reason can't pull off the wrapper. I don't understand why he couldn't pull off the wrapper, but he couldn't until he dies a skeleton. And it says, "Yo magic, the snack for survivors."
It was so weird because I remember the Go-Gurt commercials, you know, they were like, I think they started with those like, I don't know if it was Go-Gurt, but they did the claymation in some, you know, 90s commercials. But with the Go-Gurt, their whole marketing was that, yeah, you can have it on the go. You don't have to have like a cup and a spoon and like tear away this thing. It's just like rip off the top and, you know, go for it. But with this, I'm like, you're promoting your product as is, you know, like that's supposed to be yours. Like, okay, yeah, go ahead and eat it. So I was like, yeah, we have this defective lid apparently, but yeah, you're gonna be good, you know,
right,
or not.
I have no idea. And in the past, the commercials, we've been able to kind of somewhat tie it to something that happened in the past, like what happened in Lagos, what happened in this other movie. But this one, I can't think of anything, and it seems as if like, you know, the shark says, "Oh, I used to be like you until I tried this," you know, like it's. You know, my brain starts thinking, was this something that is it hinting at Wanda making a deal with the devil or trying to make a deal with the devil and then there's ramifications for it? I don't know.
That's true. That could be true because it's kind of like, hey, it worked for me.
Right. The monkey's paw.
Tricked into this thing. Yeah. Let's go ahead and take this thing. It worked for me. And then you find out it doesn't. And then you're still told it'll still save your life, even when it kills you.
There you go. So maybe it's that metaphor for more to come. And it's one of the only commercials I can remember that we haven't seen the man and the woman, the man or the woman we've seen, which we assume to be her parents.
Yeah. In this. There might be like a voiceover from them.
Right. You know, I was looking at that whole scene. I was like, what does everything mean? There's a little crab in the corner. Does that crab mean something? I don't know. Meanwhile, outside, our trio of Darcy, Monica, and Jimmy gain access to Sword computer room, and I like how Darcy just I'm hacked into the system. Like, wow, okay. I mean, either she's that good or Sword is that bad.
I was also just thinking of those things. It could have been like a cheesy 90s movie too, where it's just kind of like, just got to get into the mainframe. Right. I'm in.
Boom, like so quickly again.
Never like that,
no. They find out that Hayward has secretly developed a way to look into the hex, and they see a couple of things like we mentioned, the people on the edges aren't moving, and they could see that Vision is being tracked. Again, I start wondering about that, you know, this is what goes into my theory of the fact that I think Sword was doing some stuff with Vision's body that they weren't supposed to, because why is that the first person you're tracking? You know, have you been tracking Vision this whole time? Are you mad because are you more upset that Wanda has Vision's body than the fact that that you think she's kidnapped a whole bunch of people? Like, which do you care about more? And I think they care more about the fact that they don't have access to Vision's body because they were doing some stuff with it that they shouldn't have been doing. And I think that footage of her stealing Vision's body was her finding out what they did and taking him away. Yeah. But we shall find out more about that. Back with Vision again. Vision flies above where he spots Agnes in her car. She's also frozen, and he attempts to make contact with her, and she just keeps saying, "Town Square Scare. Where is it? Town Square Scare." And Vision's like, in the town square. She got lost in her own neighborhood. So he touches her to reverse the mind control, and she suddenly panics. She says, "You're the Avenger. You're Vision. Are you here to help us?" I love his response. I do want to help, but what's an Avenger? He doesn't know what he is, you know. And then she starts reminding him that you're dead, 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 and starts laughing like the witch costume that she's wearing. Again, we mentioned at the top of the episode, if we've already established that every main character that we've seen so far is wearing a costume that connects to the comic, and we already assume that Agnes is Agatha Harkness, the witch from the comics, I feel this is Marvel really kind of saying, you know, because she cackles, she's wearing the costume.
I was looking into that too, and this is exactly where I go back into saying that, okay, this might be having us being thrown off, you know, because you see Agnes, okay, now she's wearing a witch costume. Now it's kind of like in her face, you know. But I feel like if it's in her face, it's done on purpose, you know. It's kind of like, we're gonna keep you believing that, you know. It's when she kind of like snapped out of it that kind of it sold me a little bit. It made me feel like we were duped into thinking that she was somebody else. I'm not entirely convinced, because as evidence shows in the last episodes, you know, it's looking like she has some magic powers of her own, but
some awareness on some level.
Yeah, at least some awareness. I think there could be like a hybrid of these two theories. I think she really could be a witch, but she was actually still trapped in there. Whether she put herself in there and she didn't realize that she would actually be like taken over in this way, and this overpowered, you know, maybe she came into here thinking that she could override Wanda's powers in order to still kind of like get in. And then there's the same time where like that could be just thrown all away. She could be just like a normal person, normal actor, person living in this city, who's been taken over and turned into a giant supporting character. So I'm not entirely convinced as I was before.
Yeah,
that she was, you know, this superhuman that was in on everything, you know.
Yeah, I think on some level, definitely she's aware. There's two things that kind of push me on she knows more than she doesn't side of it. One, when Sword was getting all the identities of the people in the town, she was one of the only ones they couldn't find identities of. And so that must be something. And also in the comics, Agatha Harkness is kind of in a weird character where she's sometimes a protagonist and sometimes an antagonist. So she's like that anti-hero level where she helps Wanda sometimes, but sometimes she's kind of like messes with Wanda. So I kind of see your idea, because that's a theory I kind of also buy into, of maybe she was helping Wanda at the beginning and they both got caught in this. And she can't get out, but on some level she's aware, so she's trying to do whatever she's doing for whatever reasons. Yeah, but she doesn't have control, but she's also aware. Little things like her saying in the past, the devil's in the details. That's not the only place he's in. You know, the fact that she can appear at any moment. You know, like the fact that last week she broke out of character without anyone doing anything to her. You know, Vision didn't touch her to break out of character. She broke out of character herself. It was like,
but Herb did the same thing.
True. But then why are they the only two that have done that? There's something with Herb. You know, Herb wanted to say something the other week because we, and then she stopped him.
Oh yeah.
You know, he wanted to say something, because again, what did he want to say? So maybe I think there's more to Herb. I think what you said about Herb's costuming better. I don't think Herb is just a character.
No,
I don't know. I just think maybe not a bad person, but there's something to Herb. Anyway, Again, like this show, oh, so many questions, 3 episodes left. Back outside the hex, Monica says that her guy, her was it aerospace engineer, is there to meet them. Again, everyone's thinking, who could this be? The fact that they're holding the name back has to mean it's someone we would recognize by name. It could be someone huge. It could be someone small. Either way, it could be a name that I recognize. The top bet is Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four, a movie that we know is coming up. I don't know. Anything can happen at this point, right? No, Darcy first says that she's been looking over Monica's blood work and says that the fact that Monica has gone in and out through the barrier a few times, it's been rewriting her on a cellular level. Well, last week we speculated that they've been teasing us that Monica is going to finally become a photon, a superhero that she does become in the comics. So this could be a beginning of that. But here's my intriguing thought going from that. If we're saying that the hex kind of going through it multiple times is kind of changes on a molecular level, almost you could say mutating her, could this be a way into like introducing mutants into the world? She's not the only one that's going to go through that barrier multiple times. There are going to be other people that are going to go through that barrier. Could we see mutants be a result of this? I don't know. We know Marvel have gotten access to the X-Men and mutants altogether. The question is, how are they going to integrate them into the MCU? These are the questions.
This is a good point, because then, okay, we haven't gotten there yet. Sorry.
But Monica isn't worried and says they have to leave. But Darcy says she's going to hang back to find more stuff on the computer that can help them. Back in the town square scare, the event that's going on in town, Pietro wonders where the kids come from. Because remember last week, Vision says, "Where are all the children? There's no children around." And Pietro's like, "Oh, look at all the children." He assumes that Wanda kept them safe in their homes. And I like when he says, "You handled the ethical considerations of this scenario as best as you could." And it's almost as if like, no, I'm impressed with what you've done here. I'm not here to criticize you. It's a good job.
Well, he's speaking like an actual sibling. It's like, I know you. I know your strategy. I know how you did all of this. Almost like I understand why you did all this. He's saying he's doing all of this without judgment. He's literally spitting facts back at her, And I think he is just now kind of like, how did this start? Because he doesn't remember how he got this way,
No, he just says, well, 1 minute he's being shot at, next minute he heard her voice and he appeared. And I like the scene when, again, like a couple weeks ago when we saw Vision's dead face, we see his dead body. When she cuts, like, oh shit, another scary, like, oh, he's bullet-ridden body. But again, it's the Evan Peters version that's bullet-ridden,
right?
It's not the other version of it. And again, which begs my question again. Once again, Wanda says, like, she spoke to Vision, she doesn't remember how it all started. And so where do we stand with this? Because again, she clearly has control on everything. But how did it all start? Did she start it on purpose? Did someone make her start it? Did someone, what was it? I don't know, because it's called WandaVision. She cannot be the villain in the piece.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too, because if it's that there's a chance that she could be lying to everyone and about how this all began, but part of me feels like she wouldn't lie to her brother.
No,
I think she really knew. I think she would tell him.
And I don't think. I think whoever's actively pulling the strings is the one responsible for Pietro being here. Because he's asking her questions and getting to her, little things like, oh no, don't worry, I'm not judging you for what you're doing. Almost as if, no, keep doing it. It's fine. Wants her to keep doing it, because rather than saying, what are you doing? You're hurting people. It's like, no, everyone's having fun. Look at them. They have better hairstyles. He mentions that, everyone has better jobs. It's almost like, oh no, you didn't, like, almost like saying, like, especially after last week when Vision said people are suffering. It's almost like a reflection of that, saying, no, people are enjoying this. It's a better life for them.
Because you don't know what that town looked like before she came. It's like, yeah, granted, everyone doesn't have really free will, but when they were looking around and enjoying that, that town square with all the lights and the kids playing and it just seemed very like safe and family friendly. And it's like, yeah, this is kind of like a twisted utopia, where everything is just kind of like, yeah, very, very much Pleasantville.
Back outside, we get to our final scene. Darcy finds a file, something called Cataract. I have no idea what that means on the computer, something that Sword and the director is working on. Again, I think this is connected to what Sword is secretly doing with Vision. And she sees Vision on the radar, and we cut to Vision in the town walking up to the barrier. He walks through and we see just pieces of him. And I loved how that was done because you could feel the force of him trying to force his way through that.
Yeah.
And even the director was like, he's really trying to get out, isn't he? You know? And Darcy runs to tell him, like, help him. What the hell? She gets handcuffed for her troubles. We get the moment where Billy finds out that he has powers because he starts to sense that his dad is in trouble. So now both boys have power, which is interesting because does that mean it's the first people born with powers in the MCU? Because most people get the powers somehow.
That's right.
Again, if they are real. Because it doesn't make sense if they're not real.
For the exception of Thor,
Yeah, well, okay, fine. But he's an alien, and as Guardians are different. It's like, is he powerful?
Okay, yeah, because you wouldn't count him as mutant.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like like Guardians, like when it came to like Gamora or Groot, like they were all born with that.
Yeah, exactly. That's their species.
Exactly.
They're not extra. They're not extra for their species. That's just normal for them.
Yeah.
They go and tell their mom to get help from their mom, saying that dad is in trouble. I like PH's joke. Dead husband dying again. He can't die twice. And she's like knocks him.
Yeah.
It's not like he could. Though ironically, he did die twice in Infinity War. Because remember, she killed him, and then Thanos was like, "Nope, I'm gonna take the thing and kill you again." So I guess that's why she was mad. He already did die twice, you bastard. And she knocks him out. And then she gets super activated and freezes everyone in the town. She gets mad. An energy pulse is sent out. Boom. And we start to see the hex expanding as Monica and Jimmy are driving. They see it like, oh shit. Everyone starts to run for it, including the guard that was supposed to be taking care of Darcy, leaves her there to be taken over. Here's a theory that some have based on absolutely nothing. Kat Dennings was in a sitcom, Two Broke Girls. Maybe Two Broke Girls is going to be a little cameo for us.
Oh yeah.
You never know. We zoom out, everything starts changing in the vicinity. We see a circus now. The sword headquarters gets turned into a circus. We get some cars getting turned to a car lot. All the people get switched. Vision gets pulled right back into the hex, and he's fully formed. So here's my question. Can Vision exist outside of the hex, or was the hex just pulling him back in?
I think it was. In my mind, I was ready to see him just fully collapse, like back into his, like pale corpse, figure. The fact that he was still going, and it was kind of like hand through like a balloon, and you're trying to like expand that elastic, but eventually it's going to break, but only this is unbreakable, and it's going to pull him back. And I think he's a part of the hex. I think there's no denying that he's dead, so I feel like he is just an extension of this image of everything that she's created around all of them. And hence why she saw that flashback of him dead. Same thing with Pietro, flashback of him dead. She's like basically talking to a corpse that she is getting, pulling the strings and making them do this and that for everyone, alive or dead. She's making everyone do this. And so I feel like that's why he couldn't survive outside of that barrier, because eventually it was going to kill him.
There's a theory going on around the internet that says for some way, somehow, this series and through Wanda, the Infinity Stones are going to be recreated. And she's been showcasing various abilities of the Infinity Stones in her powers, down to how everything looks like. And the theory is that Vision is back because she created first the Mind Stone. Because the fact that he can tune into the other people means he's tapping into the Mind Stone's abilities, right? And because Wanda isn't aware of him doing that.
Right.
She wouldn't
Why
let
would she
him
give
do
that back to him?
Exactly. So that theory, I kind of almost subscribe to that theory, which then makes me think, I do think he can survive outside of the hex, but I think if he leaves, the hex breaks apart. And it's pulling him. That's why he didn't, because I expected the same. I thought he was going to step out and slowly just crumble to the floor.
Right.
But it's pulling him back, and that's what's destroying him, not necessarily him being outside of it. So I think it's like, no, I need you kind of thing. You cannot leave. Not that you shouldn't leave. You cannot leave kind of thing. Because Vision clearly has abilities of his own. So I think the Mind Stone is back. I think whoever's doing this wants to bring the stones back.
That's a big reason to do all this. Yeah.
I read somewhere that's like Wanda is the new Gauntlet in a sense. She is
Okay.
a human Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
In a sense. Again, her powers did come from the stones. That's a sound theory. Again, it's not my theory. It's something I read, but it sounds sound. We shall find out.
What I was going to say before, because we didn't get to it yet. Now it obviously ends with her extending this barrier, almost like probably what, like 3-5 times
Oh
what it
yeah,
was
definitely,
before.
definitely much bigger.
If she was in covering up one town in Jersey, I think she just covered up about like maybe like 4 or 5 more. You
Yeah,
know,
right.
and we were saying how, going back and forth between these barriers inside and out starts to alter you, could possibly turn you into a mutant. She has now brought in thousands of more civilians into this. And I think those that will survive, call it the Westview Project here, might walk away as some new mutants.
And also, my other thinking is, we know for a fact it's been confirmed Wanda will be involved in Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. And I feel like while we've all been focused on the multiverse part, we haven't focused on the fact that why. And if Doctor Strange is his ability to kind of police these kind of magical things, as soon as I saw that thing pump up, the hex, I was like, oh, what if Strange is like, hey, my strange senses are tingling. I have to go investigate.
Good.
There's another theory that we're going to get a Strange cameo, because it's been said that we're expecting a big cameo by the end of the season. Like how like the end of Mandalorian gave us that big cameo. I'm not going to spoil it for those who for some reason haven't seen it yet.
Right.
Yeah. There's rumors that we're going to get that level cameo still to come. And so the rumor is Doctor Strange could show up, and that could be, even if it's just I'm here, and then to be continued in Doctor Strange's movie.
Right. True.
It could happen. Again, there's no reason why this can't happen. It's Marvel. They have all the money they control. It's not like back in the day TV where you're like, if they had the budget to bring the actor from the movie. Like today, all the actors are from the movie.
Yeah. Started with the movie. Yeah.
Right. So I could see that again. And on top of that, we have whoever is the aerospace engineer that Monica is talking about. There is another rumor, though, that it might not necessarily be a famous comic character, but it might be a Skrull character. Because remember, Skrulls that she met
That's true.
in Captain Marvel, not all of them might have left, and she could have it. And remember the tech guy that helped them out in that movie. So it could go that way. Either way, nerdies, let us know your thoughts and your theories. We have 3 episodes left. I'm sure it's only going to get crazier from here. Find us on social media at The Nerdy Bunch. We'd like to know your thoughts. Thank you, Rocket Mike.
Thank you.
My name's English Dave. This has been a Nerdy Bunch presentation of Something to Marvel About, where we talk the MCU weekly releases. And as always, Mike,
Keep it nerdy.
keep it nerdy, nerds.